Okay guys, I've pretty much parted the gun out as far as I want to. I thought it'd be interesting to show you this. I was just to save myself a little blasting time there because it's noisy and messy. I thought I'd just sand the paint off the barrel just real quick just to get a good look at it. Can you see the rifling mark showing up through the paint? That's peculiar. It's that's very interesting. I don't know what their process is, but all these little parts here obviously aren't going to get blasted, you know. Things like extractor claw and, you know, the little pin that traps the sliding part of the receiver. And I noticed that every pin that I pulled out, like the trigger pin was bent, the extractor claw pin was bent. Just odd. I don't know if that's on purpose or it just happens when they're installing it, or if it's from the gun stresses in the gun, or it's pretty odd. So anyway, I got a little pile of parts here I definitely do not want to lose. I'm going to make a little fixture to put all these screws in. I'll just drill holes and put them in there, because all I'm interested in is getting the heads, which is problematic because the minute you put an Allen key in there, it's going to screw it up. Same with this. The minute you put a screwdriver in there, it's just going to chip it out. But it's worth a try. I'm not really sure about the offset sights being anything other than black. I don't know how that's going to help me acquire a target. If this, I mean, I could take this little guy out here. As you can see, he's like a little adjustable deal. Maybe I could take him out, and then the rest of it paint. This wouldn't be too hard to paint. This, however, is a whole nother kettle of fish. There's a little tiny pin that traps this screw. If you painted this thing, it would all get stuck together. Nothing would work anymore. Your elevation, nothing would work. So I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh man, look at all these little pins. There's a little pin that's captive there. There's a pin there. There's a pin there. There's a pin there. This little part here looks like a royal pain in the butt to paint. I'm wondering if maybe I'll just should just mask it and just paint parts of it, or I don't know. That one's tricky. This is easy. You know, this stuff's easy. Nothing to it. Stuff like this, I really don't know whether I want to subject this to a blast cabinet. You know, even if I tape that off and protect it and everything, I'm just, you know, blasting this thing with grit. I got a rubber tail cap. I'd have to tape that off really good with a bunch of tape to protect that so that it doesn't get blasted. It's got O-rings all around. It's O-ring sealed, so it shouldn't let grit into it. But I'm a little worried about that. This, really worried about. All I have to do is fog up the glass on this, or pack some grit into it somehow, somewhere where it's not supposed to get any grit, and you know, this would be useless. This has a water seal. You know, it's water sealed, fog resistant, all that good stuff. And this has kind of a seal. As you can see, there's a little bit of a gasket there. Okay, but this unit's very old. This is like 6 years old. So whether or not that's really gonna seal up super nice is problematic. You know, I could take the battery carrier out and I could blast that separately, mask that like crazy, hoping that I don't get any fog on the glass. I got to mask off the switches because I don't want to be blasting them. I don't know. I'm gonna have to see how the blasting goes and how aggressive it is. Now again, this is another thing. This is just waiting to be ruined. As you can see, you got threads here, so all it would take is some grit in those threads and you're done. And you can see, because it's corrugated, the idea of taping that up even with electrical tape is problematic, but it is theoretically possible that I could tape up here and wrap tape all around it and really tape it up with electrical tape so that it doesn't screw up. Same here. This isn't threaded or anything, but still, taping up that lens and making sure that nothing bad happens to it. And then there's this whole cam thing, which doesn't look like it wants to get disassembled, but maybe it'll come apart, just maybe. I could take the whole thing apart and do the base. Stuff like optics and the sights and stuff, definitely going to do the easy stuff first. So stuff like the muzzle brake, this ugly piece of crap. See, you know, I don't think I'm going to be able to change any of the dimensions too much, and honestly I don't think sandblasting this thing could hurt it. The odd thing about High Point is just, I mean, it's a nice accurate gun, shoots pretty reliably with its own magazines, but all the metal is like really, really soft. This receiver, I mean, I don't even know what kind of metal that is. It almost feels like pot metal. It's so soft. Every little wear spot, anything that rubs on it wears the crap out of it. And same with this. You can see where this is wearing. Even though this is a giant heavy chunk, and it has to be heavy because of the action of the gun. It's a blowback gun. It has to have a big heavy chunk sliding back and forth. But my goodness, you can just see the wear marks. I haven't shot but 500 rounds through the gun, and it's wearing out. Now this, very nice hard piece of steel. I don't think I'll have any problem with this. And then of course stuff like the rails, piece of cake. Just blast them, get some surface on them so I can, something like this, ditto. So there are some easy parts, and there's some sort of complicated parts. I don't want to get any grit in the barrel, so I'm going to have to plug the barrel, both ends. And this doesn't come off. At least I don't know how it comes off. I don't even know how they put it on. I can't tell. They pressed it in there or something. I don't know. It's very strange. So this is in there like forever. I can't figure out how to get it out. So I don't want to tear it up. There's like a little pin right there that's sticking out that I don't think I have to take out. And the reason I'm leaving the barrel attached to the receiver is because this tolerance here is actually pretty tight. Fits pretty tight. And if I start loading that up with paint, or if I start taking material away by the sandblasting, I think it might mess up the barrel fit. So I don't want to mess that up. Basically plug the barrel, blast everything. There's the serial number right there. So I can blast everything basically. Probably try and tape this so I don't get a bunch of grit in there, but it probably is going to get in there anyway. I probably just can't avoid it. There's probably just no way to avoid it, you know. This can't be removed. This is like the little guide plate for the trigger action. And I wanted to show you guys got the trigger part. I got a little metal trigger here. Should probably tear that open and show that to you real quick. Yeah, this is from a guy on the High Point forums. Painful13 turned me on to the guy, you know, and because as you know, we're in the Olympics for trying to put as much crap as possible on our guns, all custom made and stuff. So anyway, let me get this camera just leaning here for a second. Okay, and we got a trigger in here. It was funny, Painful told me, hey man, just send him some money and he'll send you a trigger. So I sent him some money, never heard from the guy. And I didn't sweat it, you know, whatever. But Painful actually went to the trouble of tracking the guy down on the forum saying, hey man, this guy sent you money, you know. He's a really nice guy. I really appreciate your help. But you can see that's a much nicer part, okay, than this part. And whether or not it improves the trigger feel or anything, that's probably all very problematic. As you see, the profile is damn near the same, except it has just a little bit extra on the bottom. I don't think it's going to affect how it's got slightly eased edges, so it's not sharp. Nice little part. This will be easy to blast. I can blast that no problem. Little parts are kind of difficult to blast, and honestly, the easiest way to blast things like this is you put them in like a wire sieve or something. And even then, they might get blown out, you know. But you can try and trap them different ways and blast them as best you can, or you can just hold one end and hold the other end. But yeah, no doubt I'll be recovering some parts. Like I said, doing the heads of Allen bolts and stuff, I mean, that is nice detail work, it really is, but when they get this small and you try and put an Allen wrench in there, I can almost guarantee it's going to, unless it's a heat-coated surface, it's going to, even with powder coat, I've had trouble with that. So I really don't know how Alumahide epoxy is going to possibly resist being scratched by putting a thing in there. So it might even not even be worth doing these, and having a few little black screws probably wouldn't be that big a deal. Now these, I don't know. So like I said, stuff like this barely shows. Something like this, pretty easy to blast. And the idea is to degrease everything first. So I got some denatured alcohol here, and I'm going to use a lot of clean rags. I'll just keep changing rags, make sure my hands are clean, of course. Use gloves so I don't get finger oil all over everything. And try and get everything super duper oil free, because you don't want to introduce oil into the blast cabinet. It'll just keep recycling it forever. And you'll be putting a little bit of oil on everything that you blast, and then that's no good. So, you know, stuff like paint that ends up in the paint in the booth. I mean, I've blasted tons and tons of stuff with the stuff I have that still looked perfectly good. So I don't think that affects the blasting process nearly as much as something like silicone or oil or grease or something like that in your, and probably stuff like powder fouling wouldn't be too cool either, because you're trying to have a really super clean surface for the paint. So you don't want to pound it with filth. And you can see little bits of oil on everything, oil on the inside, you know. So anyway, enough chatting away about parts. I just wanted to show you guys kind of the process that can go. So like if you were thinking about doing this yourself, or if you were interested in having me paint you something, I go through a lot of detail. I think about everything, and I try my best to arrange myself before I even get started. I don't just start throwing parts around. So it's just my process. I thought I'd show it to you guys, and I'm hoping to get some business doing this stuff. You know, obviously I don't necessarily want to be doing guns, receivers and stuff, but things like barrels and other metal parts can ship without FFL, and so why not, you know? If you guys want me to paint stuff for you, I'm all set up for it. And let's just see how I do with my own stuff, and that'll kind of be proof of the pudding to show you whether or not you want me to do your stuff. All right. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll keep going with this. I'll show you little bits as I go along.